Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Malcom Nair, and he's in Canada, and he's going to tell us about his near-death experience. Hi, Malcolm.
Hi, thank you for that introduction. So my name is Malcom Nair, and I am born and raised here in Calgary, Alberta. I've moved back and forth from British Columbia, Canada as well. I grew up in low-income housing, so we called it the BC housings down by downtown in Chinatown. And I grew up around a lot of negative energy. So my mom had a lot of different men come in and out of her life. I've also seen a lot of abuse and neglect and shame, abandonment issues. So growing up as a kid, I I didn't know how to deal with my pain and suffering. So I was going through a lot of ups and downs and a lot of trials and tribulations. I would see abuse and I would see, I would deal with deaths, funerals. I seen a lot of ghosts and spirits, and I would go to family's house, and some cousins would be playing with the Ouija board, and I got introduced to spirit early on in my life, and I would start to wonder and what it all means and if it's true. And I also grew up watching um, those investigation stories like Unsolved Mysteries, and it would make me feel a connection to source or angels, and I would wonder like, is this real? Is this true? Can you really take yourself out of your body? Can you really be saved by a fallen tree or struck by lightning or have a outer body or near death experience? Early on as a child, I would question all of these things, especially seeing things and hearing and watching horror movies. And like I said, I grew up in a toxic environment, negative, people, cousins and family into pornography and watching ghost movies and horror movies and relationships issues. And then I would see the energy, I would feel the energy in people's homes. I was able to sense that they have an entity or there's something there. And I didn't know at that time what it was to manifest or attract negative energy, and how you can be the creator of your thoughts alone and the vibration that you seek out. And that being said, I didn't really articulate it or comprehend consequences correctly in my life. So I didn't know how to differentiate my thoughts, my feelings and emotions. I didn't understand myself. I didn't understand other people. I was just very observant. I was just noticing things. And I guess isn't that what we're supposed to be, right? The observer and noticer of life. And I guess that's what I was for so long, but I didn't know how to articulate it and I didn't know how to put it into my life. I didn't know how to pay attention to my thinking patterns. I didn't know how to think about circumstances, and I didn't know how to push things away. I didn't know how to, I knew how to attract, but I didn't know how to attract light. I didn't know how to attract positivity. Um, so as I would engage in negative energy, the thinking starts happening. The washing machines, the devil and the angel, and the devil always won. And I would always think about my cousins playing the Ouija board, and I would always think about my mom's separation and then finding another partner, and our life and the struggle, and being 5 years old, taking care of my 2.5-year-old sister, hearing gunshots in the back alley, and listening to abuse and being scared, being home for 14 hours, home alone, babysitting my sister, only knowing that if I needed to go upstairs, I could just wait in their hallway there to feel safe, feel like I'm hiding. Um, so I also witnessed, a lot of drinking and driving. I've been in several car accidents with my stepdad. he would be drinking and driving with me in the car seat. Back in those days, you put the car seat in the front, and he would get in big car crashes and the whole glass would shatter, and I survived. And I would look over at him, and I'm talking early on, in a car seat with glass all in his eyes and his head everywhere, and he protected me. So I believe I've had a lot of near death experiences, but I really never talked about it much because it was just easy. My life was hard when you look in at it. When people hear my stories, like I have different stories, I have different chapters to my life, and they don't realize that it was normal for me to be around and walk around drugs and homelessness and seeing people get raped and just hearing stories and just so much turmoil and pain and suffering. And then if that wasn't enough, being escorted by police officers at that age, I'm talking toddler all the way up into my early adolescence, traveling to the airport, being transported by police officers, and then escorted into a plane by flight attendants, by myself. Uh, you know, those things in my life were a little bit difficult, right? And fast forwarding now, I mean, I could go deeper and deeper, but fast forwarding now, and after my near death experience, so let me talk a little bit about what happened. So my life was, cycles kept happening. I would notice family, all the drama and trauma and the gossip, the same old things that everybody has in their family, like with your aunts, your uncles, your mom, and just all the different issues: shame, brushing things under the carpet, not wanting to hear you. You never feel heard, seen, or felt. And as I start to live on my own and be an independent person, I ran away from home the first time. I was 12 years old. I dropped out of school at 11 years old, grade six, and I started getting into drugs and alcohol as early as actually grade four. When I first used to visit Fiji Islands with my cousins, they introduced me to marijuana, cigarettes, and alcohol on my vacations with my mom early on as a child. And then when I came back to Canada to visit, not to visit, I'm born and raised in Canada. I would steal cigarettes and marijuana from my dad. I would see where it was hidden. So this is when I would travel back to Alberta from Vancouver to visit my dad every summer holidays for 3 months at a time. And I would feel a major disconnect from my mom, ever since I was 1 years old. Mom and dad, I was always divided and alienated and forced uh, beyond my will what choices I had. I was forced to talk about, my mom in negative ways. I was forced to talk about my dad in negative ways, and custody battles, and my entire life. It was just crazy to think of. But I had a lot of growing up to do. And so I I was saying that I I did not know how to handle my circumstances, my emotions and stuff. Um, I lost track of what I was saying, but um,
The custody battles. I know what that's like.
yeah, the
Being
custody
a child.
battles. Yeah, the custody battles. Early on as a child, seeing that being pulled one direction and pulled another direction, and then I would also see my mom drive down from Calgary, I mean from Vancouver to Calgary in her car, and start fighting in front of the neighborhood. And I would open up the blinds or the curtains, and then my dad and stepmom would go outside and be like, "What are you doing here?" And she would be saying, "Give my kid back," and fighting for me. And then my stepmom and dad would be like, "We already enrolled him in school. He no longer belongs to you." And so I was essentially stolen from my mom and she had no choice because she didn't know how to deal with her emotions. She was very abusive, very toxic. She wasn't living a healthy lifestyle, so she didn't know how to handle stress. So she would only become belligerent and handle her emotions that way. So she held on to a lot of resentment. And then my dad held it well together, which pokes people's buttons because he knew how to mock and how to mistreat and not see, hear, or feel you. So he would do that to my mom, and he did that to me, and he did that to his wife, and abusive. And but he would like be this articulate man, try to hold it all together. He was an Aries, and that hard-headed type of guy, and he just didn't care. And so I that fed into me having two broken homes with no direction, no peace, no clarity, no harmony, just destruction on both sides. And it was very, very easy for me to astray and become a hoodlum, and that's what I was told and called. I was called names, and I was called a beggar born. I was called all these name callings, and like I'm gonna be like my dad, I'm gonna be like my mom, but with the cuss words. You're gonna be a slut. You're gonna be abusive. I was being programmed not only by my circumstances, by my parenting, being kicked down, pushed down, literally pushed down, kicked down, hit with wooden spoons, metal spoons, buckles, metal belts, and shamed. I couldn't be 1 minute late from school growing up as a kid. So if I was 1 minute late, it was like worse than the army. I'd get disciplined. I had to do squats, push-ups. I had to get beat and hit, shamed, belittled, put down. Um, and I was not allowed to cry. So early on, when I first started getting beatings, like since I was born, basically, because I remember my stepdad growing up as a toddler, he would take a kitchen knife and threaten me to get in a boiling hot bathtub of hot water, scalding hot water. And if I didn't get in, he had a kitchen knife there, a big cleaver. So I had no choice but to get in there and burn myself and shower. And because he was overprotective of his daughter that I used to babysit. So if I made any sort of mistakes growing up as a kid, I was disciplined. And then back on the other side in Calgary, my stepmom and dad would the stepmom would be complaining after he worked 12 hours, night shifts and day shifts or whatever, all the way till night, and then just watch and observe me and my sister argue. This is my older sister, lived with my dad. My younger sister was the one I used to babysit. So she would see me misbehave or fight or make mistakes, come home late for school, all these little things, and then wait for my dad to come home and then fill his ear if he's not already stressed enough with everything. And he would end up just beating us and whipping us. And then she would say, I'm a woman of God. I'm a woman of faith. I'm a Christian, Roman Catholic, and all this. And then, yeah, sorry, I'm going into pieces, but
No, you're fine.
I've
I
dabbled
get it.
into, yeah. And early on, I also dabbled in different religion faiths, Roman Catholic. She'd forced me into church, and my mom was Jehovah Witness, but she was born a Christian. And then she tried, if that didn't work, she tried Muslim. If Muslim didn't work and she got another divorce or separation, she'd try Hindu. She just kept trying every little thing, and then now she's Christian again. And it's like it's like so the lessons that came after all of the pain and suffering uh was to forgive myself, forgive my family, and understand the patterns, right, that were happening. So I started to recognize the traits that these programs of abuse, neglect, alienation, and shame and was in my subconscious mind. And then my dad's neglect and not hearing me, seeing me, or feeling me, or showing me any love as a man also weighed hard on me in relationships with other friends and other guys and teachers and just any male figures. And then with women, I didn't know how to have a relationship. I didn't know how to raise a family. I didn't know how to trust a woman. I didn't know how to trust a man. So it was very difficult. Um, today I have beautiful children and I raised them right, and I use both sides of parenting and I know how to do all that kind of stuff. But it took me to understand why and how to suffer. How am I going through my pain and suffering? So if I were to talk to people, I would say your pain and suffering is meant to give you revelations and insights and aha moments and understanding and clarity, right? So I know it's difficult, but I know difficult, right, early on. So if there's I would listen to stories and hear other stories and 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 know that, there's a lot of people and everybody's here together in this physical world. And it's very difficult. But that's a little bit about my upbringing and my childhood and some adversity and turmoil and struggle. Um, Leading up to my teens. So I started to live independently, and like I said, I ran away at 12 years old, and at that time I was disowned, and I started, to understand real struggle. Um, and I would have to ask the people I left, my mom or dad, for help every now and then, but then it would get shamed and thrown down in my face. So it didn't feel good, but I was that beggar born. So these subconscious beliefs would come up, yet I was still asking for help, yet I was still shamed and put down. So it was just a constant growing up with that. And I ended up having a kid at 17 years old. So I was a child with all this brokenness, now with a newborn child with one of my girlfriends at that time. And we ran away together, and we got a place together. We started raising our child, but again, I was not equipped. I was not prepared. I did not know how to love myself. I did not know how to love her. I didn't know how to respect. I didn't know love languages or boundaries. I didn't know how to, um, just see from her lens, or I didn't know how to. I was just broken. So that brokenness just broke our relationship very fast. I became toxic, negative, and abusive, just like my life. And I didn't take any counseling, I didn't take any coaching, any therapy, and you know she ended up leaving me. So i I have a now he's 18 years old, and I have that child. But you know he he's an amazing child now. He's amazing. She's raised him right. So I believe uh it was right for me to get out and to look at it now as gratitude, love, and forgiveness, and not like resentment and shame, and not look at it with an evil eye. Like a lot of people, they don't know how to forgive or release or let go of resentment. So I ended up doing that, which helped me, later on in life. But I have a long story. Sorry.
You're okay.
So so then I would end up having to move into homes, different homes, and running around chasing, trying to get back together with her, and then go into court battles for 12 years straight, up until he was 12 years old. I would go back and forth to court, sometimes week after week or every second week, and you know, it was tough, but um, I I had to learn more struggling on my own. If not childhood with my family was not enough, then I was doing the same cycles, the same patterns, the same karmas just added up, the same disbeliefs. I didn't trust myself. I didn't know what direction I had. So more of that kept coming, more pain. And by the time I was 15 years old, I probably moved into over 60 different homes in my lifetime, with my mom, my dad, and me, myself included, just moving into different homes. And the schools, I've been to about 8 different schools in my life. And it just, the constant not being enough, and the constant like no direction, lack of agency, really weighed me down and held me back in life. I tell people, you don't want to waste 20 years like I did. I wasted 20 years of my life going through this. And I would end up being 15, 16, 17, just doing the same thing. And like I said, so 20, and then 23, come 23 years old is I still have all of that. But at 23 years old, this is when my near-death experience happened. Okay. I'm that person. This is the person I was. Okay. So now I kind of played the story a little bit there in broken pieces. Um, and one day I woke up, and I wake up in the morning, and I didn't know how to wake up in the morning. I just wake up and think of what's next, or circumstances, or my life and pain, and just turmoil and thoughts and programs. And so I'd wake up and same thing, look at my phone and just think worry, or think, what do I want to do? Where am I going? And so I wanted to party. I wanted to hang out. I wanted to do what I normally do, drink and drive and party and hang out and be reckless and not care about rules and regulations, and not worry about respecting, authority, and just back talking, being very resentful, and putting everything that I had inside out into the world without thinking of consequences. So again, I believe that I was manifesting my destiny. I was creating my spirit that I didn't really know that I had, was guiding me to my death. And I say that with truth, is like, our spirit could either guide our intelligence, or our spirit can guide us to our early death. And I feel that I was guided because I was not listening to the lessons and the whispers that life had to give me. Without the guidance and the wisdom and the teachings, the knowledge, the coaching, the parenting was not there for me. So I did not have anything to go off of, unfortunately. But actually, it's the best bang in my head, and I'm very thankful for it. So I wake up in the morning and I go to call a friend. And I end up calling my friend that I thought was a friend. And I didn't know this before, but I had no friends. They were all acquaintances, or we were all just, everyone was just using each other. Like, what's friendship when you're a teenager like that? That's not real friendship when you're living a life like that. And so I reached to my phone and I said, "Hey, how's it going? Let's hang out. Let's get together, right?" And so we get together, and I ended up being given these drugs and stuff, and I took them, I take them, and I'm just drinking and hanging out, and I took some mushrooms and stuff, and I took some cocaine, and I'm drinking like all this alcohol, because the cocaine's keeping you awake, alert, and it's balancing the alcohol so you don't feel drunk. The mushrooms are making you feel awesome and woohoo, and you just want more of everything. And everything's just kind of balancing each other out. And I'm like, oh, wow, I could go all night till like 2 a.m. like this. So I just did it. And I ended up leaving the house. And I honestly don't remember and don't know if anybody came with in the car and ended up leaving the car. But I know that I ended up saying, I'm going to leave, because it was not good enough. So I wanted more. When you're when you're a druggie, when you're into drugs, and oh, I missed, I'm sorry. When I was 14 years old, I actually was a crackhead. I used to do drugs and crack at a neighbor's house because of not knowing who my neighbors were and what they were. All I knew was cars 24/7 coming in and out, uh, dealers, and it just it was a British Columbia, Surrey, and I didn't know that they were a big time dealer that were affiliated with mafia and affiliated with like Italian, Portuguese drug lords and stuff. And one day I asked the lady for a cigarette because I was addicted to cigarettes by the time I was that age, because I started smoking as early as 8 years old. So I was smoking 2 packs a day at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, all the way up till 20, 20 something. I quit when I was 23, smoking cigarettes. Um, and I got introduced by her niece or her daughter crack cocaine as a pharmaceutical, but as if it was a glamorous thing. She had it all laid out. She said, women and men come to me when I'm stressed, or when they're stressed, or they have anxiety, or when they're overweight. She was like introducing it to me as if it's this glamour, like this some type of new trend. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm sold. Let me try it. So I wanted more. As soon as it was done, I didn't feel it was enough. I'm like, damn, this feels like cool. It feels good. I feel like I want some more of that to numb out my life. And so it numbed out my life. It fogged my brain even more. And it gave me a laser focus into it. And I became addicted to that 24/7, every day, 3, 4, 7 days in a row, not eating, not doing anything, not showering, taking care of my skin, my face, nothing. I became a skeleton, skinny. I lost 20, 30 pounds. If I wasn't already skinny, I was skinnier. I ended up calling my sister one day because I thought I was just dying, killing myself. And she said, "What's going on?" And I think I started crying and telling her, "I need help. I lost so much weight. I'm not eating, and I can't eat. I don't want to eat. All I want to do is smoke crack." And she said, What the heck?" And she knew that I don't just call anybody for help, right? I'm a runaway. I do my own thing. So I call, and then she just sent me a ticket, a Greyhound bus ticket, and she said, "Go there right now." And I just went and I quit cold turkey. And good thing the environment didn't find me when I went back to Calgary. So that's another area of my life when I was just addicted to that. And then ongoing with my life and those circles happening again to driving. Sorry,
It's
that's
all
what
right.
happens with.
It's okay.
Uh,
I'm
uh,
following you.
so coming with back to the driving, I'm driving and everything kicks in. Everything kicks in. My life flashes before me. I'm having a life review of like all the thoughts and all the lights. I'm going fast. I'm talking so fast that when you see all the videos on TV, like lights going like this, that's how fast I'm going in a residential area. I ended up hitting a car first, blacked out, and then going, and then instead of hitting the brakes, I push hard on the acceleration, go someone's lawn, and I crashed into a house going 100 kilometers an hour, and I ejected head first completely out of the vehicle, and I died. I was done. And um few 20, 30 minutes later, as my consciousness left my body, it was still around my body, observing and noticing. I was out of my body, I wasn't in my body, and I was observing my body, and I was just present. I was like shocked. I was like, I didn't know what to do, to leave, to where to go. Should I go to heaven? Should I go up the sky? Should I just stayed there with my body, observing, because I was able to see myself just limp and just conscious, unconscious, but I was conscious because I was there. And next thing you know, I hear people saying, "Oh my gosh," coming out of the house because it was like a bomb set off at their house, right? And they're just sitting there, standing there. They're like mumbling and praying, and I can hear, I started to hear that and sense things right away. Um, and people could say maybe it was just you. You could still hear. You were in your body. Your body can hear. You have a brain, which okay, I'll get to the other things. And okay, so maybe so. Um, but then another 20 minutes goes by and nobody's coming. Police not come. They finally call the police, and ambulance, police show up after, but I feel my body being drug over. I was dragged over to the passenger side of the vehicle, and in the investigation, and when the ambulance and police came to my body, so it wasn't them. In the investigation was his body was located on the right side of the hood, where the battery was out of the trunk and the hood was crushed, but that's where his body was found. So I don't know who did that, why they did it. I haven't got any answers around that. Um, but for the longest time, I believe that it could have been angels, it could have been something divine, or it could have been the people being my angels. You know, at that time, it could have been the wonderful lady and the boy that I've never met, but I know it was a mother and a son, about in his mid 20s, and the mother probably late 30s or 40s, mid 40s probably, and somebody dragged me and pulled me. Um, Next thing you know, ambulance come. They put me in the gurney, take me into the ambulance, and that's when I knew that I was separate from my body, because I'm like, my body's being taken, but I'm observing them taking my body. So I'm like, oh shit, I gotta go closer. I gotta stay connected to my body. So that's when I knew and started to notice. And then I see them looking at me and saying, oh my gosh, like let's, and they're rushing, they're trying to go, and they put the mask on me for the oxygen. They're trying to pump me, trying to revive me. They're trying to resuscitate, and then they say, okay, we're losing him. And they start taking off to uh, the hospital, Foothills Hospital. And we're on the highway, and I'm like observing that, but I'm like, okay, let them work on me. This is cool. And I don't know if I said this is cool, but I knew that I could just be content. So I start to be content, at peace. And I left the ambulance, and I'm watching the ambulance and I'm observing. I'm like, okay, where are we going? Okay, where are we at? And I can see where we are and where we're driving and where we're going. And I'm just entering back in, looking at the lady and the man trying to resuscitate me and revive me and saying, he's losing too much blood, we're losing him. And they're trying to take care of me until we get to the hospital. Then we get into the hospital and they're rushing me. And meanwhile, I'm just following my body as if I'm just a spirit, a ghost or whatever. And I'm translucent, and you can see me as the whole physical form, but I'm see-through. Like you can almost see me, but you can't see me. I'm like a spirit, spirit, a piece of me, was left, and that's what it looks like. Um, and I end up going into the room, and I can see in the hallway like 5 to 7 random people, maybe, like people who found out that I was there. My mom, maybe my sister, an aunt, a local aunt, or whoever lived in the area. And then my mom's on the phone making phone calls, calling people. She's just worried. She doesn't know what to do. They're just following the routine when someone's dying or about to die. They start calling family. They start calling people saying, oh my God, like, I don't know what's going on. And, you know, so I'm in the hospital room, in the hospital bed. And every now and then I'm observing, I'm still there. I'm still local. They're taking me into surgeries for my broken tibia, I have a collapsed lung. They don't know if I have brain damage or short-term memory loss. They don't know how much nerve damage I have, how much muscle tearage I have, um, how much glass I have in my body, because they're pulling out big chunks of shards of glass out of my neck, out of my head, out of my face. There was like glass in me. Um, I was losing my hair, stress. So I was mangled, and everyone who saw me, they couldn't bear it. They were like, "Oh my God, nobody told me this. I know it because I was there. I sensed it. I felt it. I heard everybody's whispers, prayers. I even know when the hospital, the surgeon would turn on the light and like, go and do surgery on me. Um, so as I'm observing this, something hits me. I realize, like, what else can I do? Like, if I'm if I'm doing this, like coming back and forth, I'm aware everywhere I go. What else can I do? Right? Because I'm hearing them saying, we don't know. He's not alive. We don't like, we're working on him. We don't know if he's gonna survive. All these questions they were just that were being told or asked to them, the family and my mom were being told, we don't know nothing. He's been in a severe car accident. He shouldn't be alive. He shouldn't survive. We don't know if he's ever gonna, right? That's all they kept saying. And um so I I don't know how it works, if they had me on breathing apparatus or they had me on something, but I hit a house going 100 kilometers an hour, so they said that we don't know anything right now. That's all I remember, is them saying we don't know anything right now. Um, they so then when I come to that awareness of I could go anywhere and I could do anything, I started to listen and travel. Like, I would leave my body and say, okay, I'm if that's what they're saying, let me leave. So I left. I'm like, I leave, right? And it might sound weird to say I just floated off, but I didn't walk off. I could go wherever I want to go. And I was able to just leave and look at the hallway, look at the front desk, and look at everybody working, and then go into other rooms and see like cousins eating like food because they're hungry. They've been there for a while, just observing. And one time I went and I seen like one of my cousins look up, and I was like, somebody noticed me. Like, that was crazy. But anyways, and then I kept walking and I'm listening to my mom pray, and I go right next to her. I'm staring at her face. She's on the phone talking, and I can see her clearly just on the phone, and I can hear what she's about to say. Oh my God, like, what am I, like, she's just mumbling to herself and saying, oh my God. And then the phone's ringing, 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 and it connects. And I'm starting to pick up all these little things. And someone's like, hello. And then she starts crying and telling people. And then I go away from that, and I'm like, I sense that I could go through the telephone wire. And I'm like, if I can hear the ringing and I can sense things, then I became um there was a different feeling that I was able to do. I became like I could teleport almost, like I could just like disappear. So I disappeared into, like, my spirit disappeared into traveling, and I traveled down, and I was able to visit my uncle that she was talking to. And he picked up the phone, and he's talking, and they're driving, and they're in the car. My cousins are in the back seat and they're in the front, and he puts the puts the car into gear and looks back and says, we have to turn around. And they're like, oh, why, what happened? And he said, Malcolm's on life support. He had a house, whatever. And I think they didn't care. They mumbled. They were disappointed because they didn't come to the hospital. Just my uncle came to the hospital. So he dropped them home and he ended up coming. And then I I'm just I'm in awe myself. I'm just like going through this experience, just like me explaining to people are hearing this experience. I was going through this experience and it was difficult. So I didn't know what to do with my body because I didn't know how to enter my body. I didn't know what to do with my body. I couldn't just lay down with my body and be like, we're gonna whatever. But I was looking at the nurses and the doctors though. Every time they would say, and I would look at them like, that's bullshit, because I'm a spirit. Like that's a lie. Like I can heal, but my body was a vegetable, right? Like they knew that. They didn't know like what what else was wrong with me, but I was feeling like that's not true. And I wanted to speak and say, that's not true. Like, don't listen to that. Like, don't worry, don't listen to that. I'm right here. I didn't realize the physical world, and how their minds were working at the time. And something spoke to me, my spirit, and said, okay, right? Uh, it's time. And I was listening and I'm observing all that. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? So it's just like us in this body, just to clarify for people. So it's just like us here in the now, but we're connecting to our spirit. Like we have a connection, a relationship with our soul, with our spirit. And we are one with God. Like we're one with our divine self, our higher self. That's what it is. So it didn't matter. I was out of my body. I was still having that connection, but I was out of my body. So then now, coming to give that example, like now it's in your body, I'm in my body. How do you maintain that relationship? Okay. So I'll go back to my story is like I started to pick up on more signs and hearing things and whispers. I'm like, what's going on? Right. So they they are about to take me into another surgery, and I realized, oh, they're taking me, I better stick around, right? I felt a connection to my body. And at that point, I seen my body struggling. I seen my body struggling something, because when you're still connected and a spirit or a ghost is still connected physically, it can affect the body if it hasn't really left, right? It could affect, I don't know how, but my body was struggling. So I thought it needed me. So I went back into my body and helped my body go through the pain and suffering of the surgery. And I go back into the room and I'm like, I have this neck brace on me and my body couldn't breathe and I have this tube in my throat and I'm like, I need to take this shit out. And I was and keep in mind when I woke up off life support, right? I'll come back to this part, but when I woke up, I felt like tons of bricks crushed me. So I was like I was crushed. I could not even lift up my own hands. I couldn't even move my legs. So my spirit took out the tube, took off my neck brace. My body gave me the power, my body the power to do that, because I wasn't able to do those things when I woke up off life support. I had to go through specialist and physiotherapy and a lot of intensive care. So when my mom opened the curtain and screamed her lungs out and said, called the nurses and doctors and panicking, the nurses knew that something was, I was reacting or something was happening, right? Because how do I just take off my neck brace? Go ahead.
So you entered your body during surgery?
Yep. I could enter
Okay.
my body at will. Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't know that at first. At first, I was just separate from my body when I first died, and I was just observing, and I didn't know how to take control. I was timid. Remember, our spirits can be tainted. Our spirits can be victims. Our spirits aren't. We're born. right? When we come here, our spirits are the students of life, not the other way around. It's only our spirits, nothing to do with our body and our minds. It's just our spirits. So our spirits are tainted. We get tainted. We get to go through abuse, emotions. We're in this physical realm. It's hard. It's tough. And that's why it's a struggle for a lot of people. And I didn't realize that. So that's why I didn't know if my spirit could go back into my body and just stay there. But good thing I didn't, because I didn't know if I would be able to leave again. So the whole time I was out of my body, but then when I need to support my body, I went to support my body. And when after the surgery, I took out my neck brace. The nurse and the got the doctor or the specialist to verify, and they said, okay, yeah, you could basically try to unplug him, but talk to the family first. Um, at this time, I'm like, okay, I know what's going on. They're about to do this, and I'm like thinking, and I'm thinking about my thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And our spirits have thoughts, feelings, and emotions as well, but it's easier, it's lighter, it's more forgiving, it's less like hard. And I said, okay, what am I supposed to do now? Right. And so my mom, and at the same time, my mom's having conversations with people, and my mom's to make the decision, and it's her call. And she was hesitant, like really hesitant. She didn't know like what to do. Leave me there plugged in to think that I'm okay. I'm gonna be better off being plugged in, or unplug. So she right when she's contemplating unplugging, I disappear again. And I decided to go somewhere. And I decided to be like at will. I didn't know will. I didn't know surrender. I didn't know acceptance. And that was the time that I did all that. I accepted, and I left, and I just magnet, I was pulled like a magnet, energetically, just traveling without knowing. So it's almost like surrendering, knowing, but being in the unknown at the same time is what I always explain and teach. Um, you go, and I ended up just surrendering and leaving. And I end up going above the hospital, and I'm just allowing. I'm just letting it be. I'm just allowing. And I'm thinking, meanwhile, what about my body? Should I go back? But I'm like, don't be in control here. Something else is in control. So at the same time, we're source, we're gods, but we're connected to a higher source that we have to at the same time have humility and respect, right? And I just kept going. And I leave, and I go up, and I'm like, it's crazy. I'm like looking at everything, like the sky, and I'm getting further and further and further away. But that was the experience. And I entered more of a vortex, like a specific vortex, a suction to to guide me, to take me somewhere. Like it was like a portal. And I enter this portal, and it's just sucking me fast as light can can go. And I'm seeing different lights and colors and frequencies, and I'm seeing different. The only way to say it is almost like the lights were galaxies, but the lights, and then there was darkness in the midst of it. So it's through space, but there's lights, and you're in a funnel at the same time, in a
Was there
vortex.
sound?
Oh, that's so interesting. Nobody's ever asked me that. That's a good question. I don't remember. Maybe a frequency of traveling. maybe some type of energy sound or something. Maybe, I'm
Okay.
not, I don't remember. Um, and I'm going, and I I know that there's blackness, and I know that I'm leaving the blackness. That's why there's blackness behind me. But I'm like, where am I going? And I'm just going so fast. And I feel so vulnerable, almost sick to my stomach, where I'm like, when is this gonna end? And at that moment, I showed up. You know, when you're so scared because you're in the unknown, you don't know where you're going, and you just surrender, and you don't know like what's happening. Am I dying? Am I going to hell? Am I going to heaven? Like, what's happening? Like, it was that sick to my stomach feeling of I'm gonna accept my destiny. I'm gonna accept wherever this takes me. And I show up and in front of light. And I'm like, okay, I stopped and there's black behind me, and I can easily feel that. What do you want to do? I could be in control, but I don't want to be in control anymore.
Did something
I
ask you that? What do you want to do?
It was a feeling, but it didn't
Okay.
become clear until I entered. So when I felt welcomed, I had to feel the welcome. Um, I entered this white light, and I go into this white light, and it's a realm. It's like a presence. It's like a feeling. It's like a symphony. It's like a angelic comfort and understanding and emotion, but like a like a forgiveness emotion, like a compassion, like, wow, how was that journey? You're here now. Like, that was your experience. How did you like Earth and that realm? And it was like like someone sends you away off on vacation for decades, or for like years or whatever, however long this physical world is, and you come back home. That's what it felt like. It was like I felt like that. And it was so easy to just say, I want to stay. I want to be here. But the biggest judge of all was me. I was the biggest judgment, and I realized that I'm my own judge. It's not God and what people say your judgment day is. No, I observed right away, and I'm looking, and then I'm observing, and I'm like, I fucked up. Like, what am I doing here? I'm a mess up. Why do I feel all this love? Like, I'm that's horrible, right? I'm horrible. That's horrible. But I'm like, there's bliss, there's joy, there's compassion, there's empathy, there's respect, there's honor. I felt honored. I felt like a god. And one god, like one of the gods, right? Like, I felt like a part of it. And I was like, wow. And I see like angels, like guardians, just humbling down and just being honorable to the realm and the source. And I'm like looking at that, I'm like, wow, this is where I came from, or this is what I not where I came from maybe, but this is where I am now. Like, wow. and and then I look, and I kid you not, but I see like a figure lift up, that was just the head alone was 20 times bigger than the guardians. And I couldn't see the full body, but I see like a presence, like just a presence being there, looking at me, and I felt the energy. What do you want to do? Well, like, I felt welcomed. It wasn't talking, it was more me telepathically articulating everything. And I didn't want to say I don't know. I didn't want to talk too much, but I was in my feelings, thoughts, and emotions. And in my own mind, I was like, man, I don't know. I just left that. Like, what do I do? And I started thinking to myself, not saying it to source there, or to the being, or the energy. I started to say, but what I could have, man, my mom, my son, I left this, I was abusive there all my whole life entirely. And I'm looking down, like, oh, I could have, so I'm here now, but that's how I could have handled it. That's what they were feeling, or that's why I could forgive them like that. That's easy. I could I could forgive myself. I could talk. I could communicate. I could be in harmony. I'm like, damn, I could have, would have, should have. I'm like, I could go back. I could go back. I'm like, oh, it's so good here. What do you want to do? And I'm like, I want to go back. Are you sure? I was not given any lessons. I was not saying, bro, you think it's gonna be easy, but you don't know what you're in for. Like, I wasn't warned. So I was just asked again, are you sure? And I'm like, I had that moment was an oath, a commitment, and a sacrifice. Another thing that's very important we need to understand. So I made an oath. I was making an oath. I was commanding and demanding. I was compelling and dwelling. And I said, I'm sure. I sacrifice, I commit. I was committing to myself. And I was doing this to get a trust, to get a signal of I believe you. Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcomed. So as soon as I was honored and respected and welcomed as a student, as a spirit, as an angel, as a God, as a piece of source to go back, as soon as it was okay, I went back and I left and I go back around and I leave the white and I enter the vortex or the realm or the portal to take me back. And it was easier to go back. It was I knew where I was going this time. And my heart sank and my feelings sank and my emotions sank and my mind sank and the divinity left. The source all of a sudden was gone. And I felt empty inside, you know? I felt I felt a little emotional. I felt hurt, pain, sad, resentment, anger, contemplation, justification. And I started asking, reasoning, and saying, why? So the connection was gone. I was disconnected from that connection, that feeling of joy, bliss, and compassion, and harmony, and trust, and honesty. And I come back into this earth, this realm, the atmosphere, the clouds, and go back, see the hospital, and I go, and it felt good being that spirit, but then I felt more in control when I came closer to the hospital in my body, and I'm like, okay, I got this. But when I woke up was when my mom unplugged me, and I stayed there in contemplation of my body, and I started to articulate, how am I going to wake up? And I said to myself, I'm going to wake up in anger and pain and reasoning and justifying and complaining. So I ended up sitting upright, and my sister and my mom are sitting in the room on the chair over there, and they look at me, and they of course they wanted to be like, hear me say, "Hey mom, how are you guys doing? I love you. I miss you. I'm so sorry, for everything that I've ever done. And I want to just hug you. Come here. And, I respect you. And, thank you so much for everything." But everything like that was not what happened. It was gone. Everything was gone. And I ended up um, looking at them, turning my eyes away and not having any feeling, and looking at my leg and saying, "What the fuck happened to my leg?" Like,
How
that's
quickly
it.
we forget.
Yeah. I was like, fuck my leg. Like, how am I supposed to walk again? How am I supposed? And I was like,
I'm sorry to laugh. It's just the
yeah, no,
comparison.
yeah, yeah. So it is like crazy. It's funny. Don't be sorry. Uh, that's like, I had to overcome the ego and the feeling attacked or laughed. Like, it's all good. But anyways, um, what my mom said was, "Can't you be grateful? You survive. You're awake now." Because my emotion, my feeling, my power was so powerful that I can make people either not care about me when they were supposed to give me love back in the pain and suffering. I was so challenging towards their energy that they even shut down their love and compassion towards me. So they're like, "Can't you be grateful?" And then they go back into being, "You're ungrateful. I don't care. I'm ungrateful for you too. And you should have died." Like, the last thing my dad said to me when I woke up was, "You're going to die a lonely man."
Oh,
Because, yeah, my mom, my sister, they said, "I wish you died in your car accident. I wish you get run over a bus. You should die." Because I
like
was
right
so,
then in that moment?
couple weeks later,
Wow.
weeks later, for sure, weeks later, yeah. Um, my dad in that moment, yes, he did, because I was so toxic, so negative. I started to resent right all over again. I started to blame all over again, and blame and complain and justify and reason and tell people, "No, it's not this. What are you talking about, you stupid nurse?" Like, I was not angelic at all. I was like very rude, very toxic. I was
Malcolm's
very,
back.
yeah, yeah. I was back, and I was confused as hell. I was confused. I was I was not sure of anything, and I wanted to blame and victim myself and not hear anybody out, not respect anybody, and just take everything out of the carpet that was brushed for the whole lifetime of my life, and shove it in everyone's face like dust in their eyes that they had to try to see while I was throwing it in their face, throwing everything in their face. And I was a contradiction, because I was nice on one side to certain people and kind and showing one way. So I was not authentic. I was not genuine. I was not I was not true to myself at all.
I
I
don't
was
think we're
living,
comfortable with getting love when we have that kind of upbringing. Like, don't love
and I
me. I'm
was
not
not.
comfortable with you loving me. That's foreign.
I didn't know
Hate
how
me
to.
because that's my
Yes.
normal.
Oh, girl, I tell you, listen. Um, if we talk about that, I was very uncomfortable receiving love. If somebody were to give me a little bit of consoling or compassion, my energy was, "Why you don't do that? Like, let me be mad. Like, don't
Right.
rub me, don't touch me." And I would hurt people's feelings that were just trying to give me love.
It's like it
Um,
took me years to perfect being closed in and strong and angry. Don't take that
mhm,
away from me.
exactly. And so I started to not know how to have that connection with love. I didn't know how to have that connection with understanding. I did not know how to sit in the pain and suffering. I didn't know how to go through pain and suffering. So bringing those ideas and concepts I brought earlier on into now is like, we don't know how to pain and suffer. We don't know how to. And
It's
and the
vulnerable.
um it is very vulnerable. It is very uneasy, and it's just like me surrendering and being vulnerable in the midst of that acceptance of of that thing in my stomach, that pain? Am I gonna transform that energy, or am I gonna use it for something? Right? So it's how we use that mud. Do we turn it and grow it into understanding, compassion, to articulate, to comprehend, to think of consequences, or we lash out, or do we waste it, waste our life force? So I ended up wasting it and lashing it all out, and I would get whispers. So I started to get whispers, but my whispers this time were like clear whispers, where before we we don't hear them, we ignore them. Were like, what was that? Oh, whatever. I'm going to my friend's house. But the whisper was like, listen to that whisper. Don't go to your friend's house. So so these whispers came and said, you're yelling. Don't yell. Calm down. And then I would not dismiss or disown them. I would be like, that's me. Wow. And I started to wake up again, and I started to realize, and I was going through this journey, making the mistakes, but getting the downloads, getting the whisper, and then stopping. Then I'd go through more different circumstances, and then I'd get that whisper, hey, don't drink and drive. What the heck? You drink and drove, and look what happened. You're slapping God in the face. And I'm like, whoa, shocked. And what would happen? I'm telling you. So I ended up driving one day and drinking and driving, passed out on a highway, on a freeway. And I end up at the end of the freeway where we get to an intersection, there's lights, and I'm going into the city. And but I blacked out, I passed out. My spirit said, okay, fine. I'm gonna black you out, I'm gonna pass you out. But my keys were on the in the ignition, taken out. My keys were taken out of the ignition. Doors were locked, put on the passenger seat. Cars are honking. People are banging out of my car. Police officers come banging for 15 minutes, lighting a flashlight, and finally wakes me up and says, so mad at me, pissed off, like, who the fuck do you think you are? You think you could just sleep here and rest for 20, 30 minutes? And I get out and I'm in shame, and I'm just like humble. And he's like, you're so lucky that your keys are on the passenger seat, otherwise I would take you to jail right now. You better walk home. Your car is getting impounded right now. And I'm like, okay. And I walk home from the highway, and I had to walk home. And I'm like, wow, what a saving grace. And that was another bang in the head. So I started getting more bangs, more revelations, more aha moments, more enlightenment moments in the midst of pain and suffering. And I would end up making more mistakes in relationships. So I'm like, whisper, another whisper. Why are you doing that? You did that before. You're doing the same thing. Oh, okay. So I was able to surrender and either practice taking anger management, or practice taking couples counseling, or surrendering into some type of course or program or understanding, and things would get better. I'm like, wow, so I'm really making the mistakes, but changing them, not repeating them, and something good's coming out of it. But I was still not fixed. I was still making mistakes. I had a lot of areas to cover. I'm telling you, I had, like I already told you, my life, right? So I had a lot of areas to cover, and I was still smoking and relapsing and drinking, and then hanging out with friends that had drugs around them. I didn't know how to control myself, and I would end up finding myself getting back into being addicted. And I'm like, another whisper, do you want to live this life and kill yourself and die and do all what you've done before? Do you want to get out? And I'm connecting. I'm like, I want to get out. I want to get out. I want to get out. How do I get out? Just get out. Just get out. And I'm like, okay, fine. And the next couple days, when those same friends called me, different friends, I said, no, I can't make it. And I got used to being more in control of my actions and taking accountability and responsibility for my account of myself, my decision making. And like no one's perfect. We're making mistakes. We're here for lessons. We don't grow without the pain and suffering. We don't learn without the pain and suffering. So I started to pick up on it, and that's the process. I started to do my process like that, through the pain and suffering, through the adversity, through the persevering, through the accountability, through the acknowledgement, through the understanding, through the sacrifice, the oath, the will, the commitment. um it was in steps and pieces. So um that's basically how, when people ask me, was it easy? Did you just change? Some people do, some people don't. Um, some people keep slapping God in the face, and they're like, "Oh, I survived. I can keep doing it," and not realize, not go through the change. And some people's change comes slower or later in life. Um, but yeah, it wasn't a miracle, like, you're born again, or you've seen the light, and now, no, there was a lot of growing, a lot of learning about the world and reality, and figuring out that there's a, a life after death, and realizing that there's a life review here while we're in our conscious days, how to be conscious aware of our subconscious paradigms, our limiting beliefs, how to connect to source while here, how to go through the pain and suffering, right? So that's 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 going to be the journey, right? Every achievement, every growth, you have to sacrifice, you have to go through more lessons, you have to ask for more compellings, you have to ask for more dwellings, you have to challenge, you have to command and demand, you have to be able to sit in the pain and suffering and channel the negative energy, and understand that it's not there to hurt you, it's there for you, for a test, to see what you do with that negative energy. How can you transform energy? Do people sit in there with a negative or a victim mindset, or are you doing something with it? Do you even know how? Are you reaching out to somebody to learn and guide you and teach you the way? um and yeah, that it's a beautiful journey. It's a roller coaster, and it's hard, right? But do you want easy and then not be able to deal with hard, or do you want to do hard intentionally, so then when other things come up, it looks easy for you but hard for the rest of the world, right? What do you want to do, right? What kind of choices do you want to make?
You want to share what you're doing now?
Sure. Thanks. So I've transformed, and I've really been able to take a look at everything, and I've asked myself, how do I turn? I asked her, how can I serve? How may I serve? And I would get more whispers. Oh, you got to leave your family. Oh, you got to change. Oh, you got to grow past this. Oh, um, you know, you got to sacrifice. Or I would end up doing different things now. Like, for example, I would ask myself how to take my pain and suffering and everything, to be able to turn it into an easier baby step process for someone else to do, without having to go through the pain and suffering and dying to realize that they could have, would have, or should have done it differently. How do I put these lessons into bite-sized realizations and aha moments and revelations for people to achieve? And that's what I have done with guided intelligence. I've received that, and that's what I do with guided intelligence. And people can find me at www.guidedintelligence.ca, or search that anywhere, or my name, by my name, Malcom Nair. But I've been able to basically transform people's lives. I have doctors, therapists, psychologists, RTT hypnotherapists coming to me, people who work with big names in the world, seeking out me, or finding out, like, wow, like 20 years have gone by, that I've been doing this specialty, but I'm still finding myself, in an area, and they want to know a quick step or simple idea. And it's I think source, I just want to give credit to source and people, right? And
Why do you say source? I'm curious.
because it's not my why do I say source, or why do I say source deserves it, or why
Why do
am
you
I
say
not taking the
source
credit?
versus God, or
Okay.
source versus something else somebody else might call? I'm just curious.
Um, because that is the source. God is the source. Source is God. It's like if someone has a image of one thing or an image of God, um, then they need to understand that beyond what they feel and think, they have to expand that and still be open to receive more from God, right? They if they limit their belief into one belief, if they think that it's just an ultimate one thing, then that's what source doesn't want, right? Source wants you to just be able to be like open to everything, be open to everything, learn from even another student of life, a homeless man, a child. Surrender to your children. I surrender to my children, right? I surrender to source in so many different ways, but I say source because there's people that have this idea about names and religions and gods and stuff like that. So I've always had a connection to source, right? It's been source. But I know for people who want to resonate with God, that's what God is, right? It's that source. So
Is
that's
is
why I
source the
say it.
one that, oh, put me on here with you? Um, is source the one you think that said those things like, do you want to go back? Made those decisions, gave you that opportunity. Is that the voices that was there? Or is source bigger than even that for you?
Source is bigger than that, but that's my higher power. That's my higher power. I don't know what everybody else uh feels, hears, or sees. Their own experience and perspective is very unique and deserving and divine to themselves. So mine is equal, right? Like I feel that I can't say something else. I just want to stick to my story. That's
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
story,
Right.
right? That's what I felt. But to answer your question, I still send compellings and dwellings and commands and demands out to source, right? I don't just and then I also speak to my that one source, that specific source, and my angels as well. Like we got to understand there's everything. It's a multi-dimensional quantum jumping, quantum leaps. There's different realms. Maybe I wasn't at a place to enter another realm or another dimensions, right? There's other dimensions that I started to understand after coming back to Earth, right? But that dimension that I went to was the connection I needed to fix and do the things I do now with guided intelligence, to understand what guided intelligence is and how to guide other people, right? Um,
Is that in relation to the voices that you get, say, don't go there or don't do this? Is that your
that's a
guided intelligence? Are you
yeah,
teaching
but
people how to tap into
yes,
theirs?
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for expressing that. So that's exactly that. I help people in their unique way, in their individual, customized way, for them specifically. So everybody that I help, they have their own way of learning. They have their own way of receiving. They have their own connection. They have their own vibrations, right? So I connect with them and I help them understand it even better and how to tweak it. So I don't really change people. I help people understand that they can tweak areas that they're already doing to improve, to see more better results in the changes that's going to happen and occur in their life. Like people have received things in materialized things in real time, manifest. I manifest things. I teach people how to visualize. I do meditations. I do an inner child release technique. I do a thought release for people to understand their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, and how to do some of the things I was saying earlier on in this interview about connecting to those feelings, how to understand, how to hear, see, and feel when nobody is, how to forgive, how to let go of resentment in the pain and suffering, how to use our pain and suffering and channel that negative energy the correct way, right? There's methods to it. And I realized it through going through it the right way, right? Through making the mistakes, but shifting it, changing it, or transforming the energies. And yeah, it's a unique step-by-step process when people work with me, but it's beautiful at the same time. And they can find my testimonials on my YouTube channel to see the diversity and the unique, beautiful people that find me that I've been able to serve.
Now, what you're teaching, what you're using, your techniques isn't from school, something you've went
No,
and learned. You are teaching what you learned through your own transformation. Is that correct?
yeah, that's another beautiful thing that you say is I don't have a coach. I haven't had a coach. I haven't had therapists. I've encountered. I've been around them putting me down or saying where I am in life or using their intelligence from the books.
Because
Like
you have, what'd you
psychology.
say, sixth grade education?
Yeah, and
This
I've
is
been able
beautiful.
to
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving
and,
what you're doing.
and been able to manifest. I went back to college. Yes, I did go
Okay.
back to college and I did upgrading and stuff like that. But the thing is, going back to college, starting from a grade six level, but being able to pass with high regards, high grades, with flying colors through manifestation and attracting and knowing that we are a computer system. We have taken all the energies, all the information. If you're studying and you show up for your exam and you're like confused and not knowing the answers, everything entered our mind. How do you connect? How do you enter that? So I was able to enter my mind and take numbers and take images and take fractions and take decimals and take them and move them and figure that out to get past school. So I was able to pass and get my education in college with the work that I do. And the whispers get stronger and stronger over the years where I'm able to attract things and do different things, that
What
I
did
will
you
share.
take? What was your degree?
So the thing is, I don't have a degree. I don't need a
Okay.
degree.
What did you
When
study?
people I studied I study every day for the past 10 years, but I study, like emotional intelligence, behavior, anger, how to de-escalate circumstances. I've studied mindset. I've studied mindfulness. I've studied life coaching. I've studied psychology. I've studied and researched science, epigenetics, biohacking. I understand how to self-heal. I healed my bones. I can heal. I've healed my collarbone, nerve damage, muscle tearage. I have clients and patients that have diseases or cancers or diagnoses that I teach them how to come off their pharmaceuticals, how to be able to self-heal and regulate their emotions, to get off of the addiction or get off of being suppressed, and to understand pain. So like all these things, sometimes you have to have in science, you have to have a bit of the unknown and spirituality. Like Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about epigenetics. It's changing the environment of the cell to create either a bone out of a stem cell, create a bone fragment, or create a heart, or create a lung. It's just epigenetics. People are able to heal bones. They're able to heal skin. I had scars, I had acne that I was able to consciously heal without medication, without chemicals. I was on tons of pharmaceuticals, 30 a day. I was on different blood thinners, different uh, uh, amitriptyline was for being in the psych ward to help with your brain and regulate your emotions. I was on different things for my heart, for my brain, and I quit cold turkey and I decided to choose life, to live than to be on things that were supposed to keep me alive, but do things the right way. So I kind of I got off of those things by choosing source, belief, my trust, that knowing, that faith, that we have the ability to overcome and have our own ability to believe and trust. We don't have to fall victim to what everybody else tells us the narrative is, like scare tactics or fear or diagnoses. These are things I've been able to do in real time that I've done for myself. It wasn't the doctors. I was teaching doctors, psychologists. They were asking me questions. They were writing down, taking notes. And I started to notice, I'm like outwitting and outsmarting some of them. And I have it in my last interview where Jeff Mara interview, where I talk about how I was able to understand the system and how doctors were and how they were suppressing you and diagnosing you and limiting you. And I've been able to tune into my body. There's many things. If you keep asking me specific questions about things that I've done, I'm not a boaster. That's why I'm saying it now, only because you've asked. But you know, been able to, we can manifest even negative things, like people lose their eyesight, lose hair. I'm working with a client right now that wants to regrow his hair. Another client that wants to regrow his fingers. I'm not saying that I'm doing it. I'm saying that he believes in it. People believe in it. If you can conceive it in your mind, you can achieve it in reality. Some of these things, for people, think it's out there and new age, but it's not. It's actually our birthright, and it's what society has called new age and has labeled for us to stay in a paradigm and in a limiting belief and not be in tune with our power and our divine right as a spiritual being, right? Don't count your birthdays, don't count your age. There's so many little ideas and techniques that if we start implementing today, that we can change our life and we can quantify the experience here on life. I jumped 20 years in advance from where I was, right? So you could do it. People can do it.
I'm trying to think of the word. It's like something effect, where if we believe something, like it happens. Like I think of the
Yes.
medical term. I can't think, like you could give somebody a pill and say, well, this will cure you. And they start feeling
Placebo?
better. Placebo effect. There you go. Thank you. I couldn't think of it. It's kind of like that, like the power of belief,
Mhm.
that which is so over or under used, I guess. So I'm just sitting here thinking, have you thought about, or maybe you have, like put this in a textbook and maybe introduce it as a college class?
Yeah, so I work with some people and I've written a lot of things. I have documents and stuff down, and everything's here, right? So I could uh, do more and put it together, but I do have it in bite-sized nuggets, and I do have documents that I provide to people. Like I have a command and demand prayer document. I have how to do your affirmations. I have how to compel, how to dwell. I have a mirror talk exercise in a PDF audio, and I do a guided one. But the placebo is like, we don't have to, like, if people have a hard time believing, I'm working with clients that uh just are missing that element, right? So you use your energy, your dark energy, or the energy that you think is there. You use that energy and you send it out into what you're trying to achieve. And then you go and take action to try to achieve it. And next thing you know, things start happening and changing for you. You have to formulate the belief system. You have to have a will. You have to have a knowing. It takes time and through proof and perseverance and but if you don't change your mindset, if you stay in that mindset that you currently have while you're doing the work, it doesn't matter how many miracles come into your life, you're going to see it as, oh, that just happened. Oh, that just happened. Like, we got to become more imaginative. We got to connect back into our childhood. We have to be able to imagine again. We have to be able to go into these REM states and theta and alpha and delta. And we have to be able to sleep and have lucid dreams. We have to have a purpose, have a reason, ask ourselves questions ourselves. You know, what makes me fulfilled in life? Why do I feel, start asking, why do I feel like this? What can I do to start feeling more fulfilled? Is this job the right job for me? Do I need to be on these pharmaceuticals? Start questioning the narrative, right? And once you start questioning and you start doing that, you will create your own customized placebo effect on the world. You just got to do a lot of different changes, right? Um, it's a lot of work, like I said, but feel free, to ask questions. Like you're asking questions, uh, dive deeper, contradict, ask questions, and then I'll get more ideas about it. But with the placebo effect, um, eventually you don't need a placebo. Eventually, there's a knowing and a trust in the midst of the unknown. And you have to be in the unknown. You have to be in the pain and suffering. And you can't just keep being in the positive, positive, positive all the time. Because what happens when positive and motivation dies, right? And then you go backwards, right? So do it backwards. Do it in the midst of the pain and suffering. Do it in the midst of not knowing or not understanding. Sometimes true strength comes from negative energy. Negative energy is far more powerful than anything positive. And we don't know even 10% of it unless they do, and it's been hidden. But to
Yeah,
quantify
like
our experiences,
we can do so much because we get mad enough that
oh,
we're going to
yes,
do it. We
exactly
get
that
fed up
power.
enough. And that's how I started this podcast. I got
Hmm.
fed up enough. I got mad enough at the NDE community that I said, I am going to do it on my own. I didn't know how. And I had to
Hmm.
cry and scream and pray
Hmm.
because I didn't know how to do it, but
Yeah.
I was going to do it.
Good for you. That's beautiful. That's exactly like that compelling, that dwelling. How do you compel? How do you dwell? A lot of people dwell on the wrong things. They dwell on the pain and suffering, but you should dwell on what you want to achieve. Like I got a download of publishing a self-help book for children, and I did it in 6 hours. I published a
Awesome.
self-help book. Yeah. It's called Arnav's Affirmations. It's great. It's beautiful for children. It's more of a mature children's book. It's a good read. And it's an articulate read. It talks about surrendering, forgiveness, understanding, sharing, compromising, all these things that children need to know. It's an inspiration for children. And that's
Will you
how
send me
I,
that link so I can add it?
beautiful. Yeah,
Okay.
I would. I will. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
if you were on a stage and I had a big audience, everybody would stand up and give you a standing ovation right now. You did
Thanks.
such a wonderful job, and I so appreciate you delving into your background, your childhood,
It
so
was
we
hard. I
could
didn't know how to do
appreciate,
it.
huh?
It was hard. I didn't know how to do it. That's why I kept pausing and looking confused a little bit because I have so many gaps, so many like if I came over an area in my life, I ended up back there. And then I left and I came back there and I went even further back. And there's so many overlaps in my life story that it's difficult to just keep going this way.
Right.
Like, yeah,
You did a fantastic job,
thank you.
Malcolm.
I
I re-
appreciate you.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you very much, and I bet you wake up so proud of yourself and what you have become, what you have transformed into.
I do, and even if it's hard, I'm telling you, everyone, a coach needs a coach, a therapist needs a therapist. Even me, my coach is, I have coaches that I have not even met physically. Like, go and search it. go watch stories, right? So I'm constantly consuming, I'm constantly growing and creating knowledge and wisdom, and I'm always watching stories, and I'm I'm just aware that if I don't do it now, I'm gonna look back again and be like, I coulda, I woulda, I shoulda. So we don't have to, sit and being sick and tired of being sick and tired. If we're ready to change, just change, just do it. Change everything about you. Look into the food you consume, read the labels, and ask yourself, does this serve my higher good? The drinks, the juices, research
Yeah.
it, and then find out the truth about, like, is this healthy? Is this good? Look into the fructose and the glucose that's in the food, the corn syrups, look into the additives, look into everything, because if you don't have a mind, body, spirit connection, then what's the point focusing on just success or just money when you're going to be empty inside? When you have it, it's only going to give you more of that. So you're just going to keep being empty, wanting more, 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 more. You have to go like this, stay together. So
And I think
it's a
when
journey.
we've been in that realm and we know what that feels like, and we can compare it with what this feels like, and we know that this isn't where we have to stay mentally, spiritually, that, I'm sure that you're doing that you're reaching for more. Like
Yeah.
the life you had was no longer
No,
okay.
I rewrote destiny when someone showed me a biblical book of my life that I'm gonna drive a car without a seatbelt and I'm gonna get in a car accident. That happened, but I chose not to no longer believe in what everyone says. You can rewrite it. You can change it. You can shift it. You can alter reality. It's being done. It's happened before. It's happening again. You can do it. It's not that you're playing God. You are source. You're not playing, you're not pretending to be
We're
God.
creators.
You're creators. We are. And we have to be able to do it like you did. You just used your dark energy. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I don't know how to do this, but I'm just going to do it. And look at you, you've achieved it. And you have so many views. You have thousands of views, right? So it's amazing, right? But you have to challenge yourself. What's next? How much more can you do? Take yourself from this and now jump even further. You go
Well,
further.
with this video, I've already got my wheels turning what I'm going to do. I saw an
Beautiful.
article recently, a news article about a university in New York, and they have proved and made a statement near-death experiences are real. And this is how, and this is the papers published. I'm going to send
Yeah.
this video to them
Yeah.
because I
Yes.
say there's so much knowledge in this video that we just did, that you just provided. It is beyond so much. I mean, you could watch 1,000 NDEs and maybe not get this much information that you just provided. And
Thank you.
I see it on so many levels of understanding the other side and the transformation in our lives, incorporate into our lives. But for me
Right.
personally, the one thing that I really connect with you in your NDE is my 5-year-old drowning. When I was hovering above the pond, of course, out of
Yeah.
my body, and I'm looking around thinking, which way should I go? And I remember you thinking, which way, which way did I go?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but the main thing is I heard a voice, a female voice, a distance away, says, "Don't go yet. If they
Yeah.
find you soon, you might go back." And I connected with you because it was like there's something there that we have to stay close to our body. Like, don't go too far. Kind of like a mother with a child. Don't go too far. I need to keep an eye on you. And something you said resonated. Like I went and told my husband, I'm like, listen to this. I says, anybody thinks I ever made up my story? How did I, years ago, when I first recalled my drowning into E, and I said, the angel says, don't go yet. If they find you soon, you might go back. And I'm thinking, at the time as a child, I said, go back. That's not how death works. We don't go back. Because at 5, I think I know that much, right? But so that I was like, and this guy is sitting here saying, 2023, I'm hearing it, that you had to stay close to your body. Now you did go further off, way up through, and I had the experience on my second NDE 20 years later going through the tunnel. That's why I said, did you hear? Was there any sound? Because I had the same experience of the tunnel or portal, whatever you called it. But I had a loud shh, like a
Mm,
rocket shooting this noise. That's why I wondered. And so, and there was so much I resonate with you.
mm-hmm.
But and it's just, you know, we confirm our NDEs if we need any more confirmation, right? But I'm still always confirming by other stories that really connects the dots and confirms. See, he felt that too, or the other side was letting him know not to go too far, that you had to stay close to your body to get back in. But yet, you know, you did go further. But
We need to
yeah,
start getting to the other side in the here and now, and realizing that that experience is inevitable. It's going to happen, but how can we have that experience now? Like, have a vision, have a feeling, have a thought, have an emotion, but understand how to use it. We don't have like there's things, for example, like that in like in a separation, right? I went through a separation, and it's stressful, it's anxiety, it's pain, it's suffering, it's you know, a lot of uh depression, anxiety, but and you think of your children and you think of all the things, but how do you manifest in that? A lot of people get stuck in that, and they forget about happiness, joy, they forget about channeling other energies. But if you can combine the two and create a full effect, a yin yang effect, then that's the magic, that's the master key.
wow, we've come a long way, baby, haven't we? All right. I don't know. You might be too young to know of that phrase. You've come a long way, baby.
No, I grew up old school. So I grew
Okay.
up the old school way. My family is that old school way. You know, my parents had that they would raise me with that British that background of, hooligans, Tom, Dick, and Harry. Like they would like name call with those analogies, and they would I grew up watching a lot of things like the Roots, and understanding of, yeah, I there's a lot more that I could say that I don't feel that it may stick with some people, because it's just research. Get your own clarities, get your own understandings, resonate in your own divine way, but keep going for more. If you're not growing, if you're not expanding, if you're not changing, you're staying in the same realm. You're not creating another quantum field. Every thought creates another frequency. And if you don't walk there, you're staying in the negative frequency. If you think of a negative energy and something happens, you've created that. So there's other things you can start creating, instead of, jumping into the separation. If you say, oh, I don't care, let this divorce happen, let this relationship go down, she's being rude or whatever, it will happen. Why would you get service in that mindset and that emotion? If you say, okay, I'm gonna hope for the best, things are gonna get better, I'm gonna work on this relationship, I'm gonna understand love languages, I'm gonna understand her respect, I'm gonna show her more, I'm gonna do more for him, I'm gonna understand, I'm gonna forgive, and while you had that quantum leap vision, then you're going towards that new reality. That's how you go into these new realities.
Makes me think of one time I thought, oh, if we go to that family reunion, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. These people are going to show up and they're going to say this,
Yeah.
and none of that happened because
And
people
of
didn't even show
course,
up.
yeah,
You know,
of course,
so
yeah.
many things. It's like, I couldn't have imagined this would have turned out so well. You know, I thought I knew this will happen, this and this and this. I could
Mm-hmm.
imagine all those things, but I could not have imagined how it actually turned out. And it turned out really well.
Right.
So, well, I appreciate the time you've given us today and sharing from your heart and those dark places we don't like to go back to. But I think
Yeah,
sometimes we have to share the bad for people to appreciate the good.
absolutely. And I appreciate you for allowing me to go there, because I wouldn't have been prepared if you hadn't said, given me some guidance. Everybody needs guidance. Even a guider needed to know how you want this to be led, right? So you open that up, and I'm able to express more when you do that. So thank you for being a great interviewer.
And thank you for your openness in asking, you know, how you want this to go. How do you, you know, what do you like? And I'm like, well, what do you like? And then I think together we kind of like Well, let's just let spirit lead us and see what
Yeah,
happens. And so
exactly.
there we go. It always
All
turns
right.
out good. I think we do that. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank
I'll
you.
send this out to you later today.
Sounds good. Thank you very
Okay.
much.